system is rocked to its foundation as top Wall Street institutions topple under a mountain of debt.
1 year before the stock market crash comes the first game in a trilogy that's going to fundamentally change my opinion of video games and storytelling. But it'll only be 2 years later, in 2009, that I will discover this gem with the second and arguably best game in the trilogy, Modern Warfare 2. We already know it had really enjoyable gameplay with great map design, gun design, sound design, voice acting, score composition. But all 360 no-scopes and trash-talking lobbies aside, focus on the campaign, a truly overlooked aspect of most games nowadays, and answer this. What is it that makes the Modern Warfare Trilogy so riveting? There's a lot that goes into a good story. Theme, tone, plot, setting, characters, dialogue, conflict, perspective, but there are two golden rules applicable to any story. 1. There is a universe defined by a set of rules, whatever they may be. 2. There is an overarching philosophical conflict and theme that drives the entire perspective of the story. In Modern Warfare, the answer to 1 would be the world we currently live in and know, i.e. Earth. And the answer to 2 would be the ends justify the means, an idea first credited to Italian philosopher and political theorist Niccolò Machiavelli. The game uses 2 smaller and more digestible themes, loyalty and patriotism, to support the main philosophical conflict. For a war game, these themes don't come as much of a surprise, but they do play an important role in structuring the angle from which the story is told, positioning the point of view. Now, all that being said, that can't actually be the right answer, because 10-year-old me was smashing the A button to skip the cutscene well before the loading buffer was at the halfway point. The right answer is actually really simple once you factor in the player. Despite being an arcade-style game, the story and overall aesthetic were developed and directed as if it were a film, giving you missions where you just look around and watch what's going on. This also means that whether or not you follow the actual story during the cutscenes, when you get to major culminations in the storyline, with accumulated effects of the pacing, visual grandeur, sound design, and score composition, you'd feel a certain sensation. Badass, breathtaking, terrorized, speechless, whatever. You'd have a surge of emotion. Now, though I say the right answer is the cinematic tone of the game, this could only be the case if the story itself, and therefore the backbone of the game, is solid. I'll be laying out this commentary following the basic idea of the 3-act structure, a story structure dating back to ancient Greece and Aristotle's, and still applicable to this day. The structure goes like this: Act 1, Setup, Act 2, Confrontation, Act 3, Resolution. This has evolved over the centuries, but essentially remains the same. When you're setting up a story, you're laying the groundwork for the rest of the plot to unfold onto. And the Modern Warfare journey begins on this screen. We gather the intel and quickly piece together. SAS, good. Russia, bad. The cornerstone of the game's external conflict. US and allies are good, Russia and allies are bad. It's everywhere, and very evident. Nuclear war is at stake, and it's because of the bad guys. It's up to the good guys to stop them. We're presented with stark contrast. Virtue and vice. And the characters reflect this. Friends and enemies. Valor and terror. This expositional tool is used to distinguish both sides of the conflict. giving a clear-cut understanding into what story we're embarking on. And though we sense it throughout all 3 games, it's going to evolve in a very dramatic way. It's 2009, and you boot up Modern Warfare 2 and are introduced to a new character. Joseph Allen of the Army Rangers. This marks a decisive moment for the trilogy because we're about to embark on a twisted political conspiracy that will blur the line between good and evil. Private First Class Joseph Allen becomes Alexei Borodin, and as the world witnesses the size of Activision's balls, we begin to witness the questionable methods being used by our good guys. Several missions later, and we're met with one of the most shocking plot twists of video game history, when patriotism goes so far that it sacrifices loyalty and morality to reach a goal. Sounds familiar? This moment will remain etched in gamers' minds forever, and for good reason. After having fought your way into Makarov's estate and then out to the extraction point under Hellfire, you're met with the soul-crushing death of one of Call of Duty's most memorable characters, Ghost. The guy barely had any lines, yet still made an impression on every COD gamer of the 2000s. The war culminates, perfectly summed up in the title of the next mission, The Enemy of My Enemy, when for the first time you fight Shadow Company, Shepard's version of Blackwater. Between the confusion and the politics, we are no longer COD 4 Bravo 6.
They say truth is the first casualty of war. But who defines what's true? It's just a matter of perspective.
However, many Russians still blame America for the massacre at Zakhaev Airport.
The duty of every soldier is to protect the innocent, and sometimes that means preserving the lie of good and evil.
We're so far gone from the black and white thinking of COD 4, our good guys are now mercenaries. Task Force 141 is disavowed and under the stubborn command of John Price, valiant war hero and charismatic leader who's lost too many friends to the hands of Zakhaev and Makarov. In a reckless haste to avenge his fallen brothers, he ignores multiple red flags, ultimately costing him the life of his old friends, Sergeant Kamarov and John So McTavish. Modern Warfare 3, we're playing in a grey world. It's a war beyond borders, a blend between military justice and personal vendetta.
I'm coming for you, Makarov.
Everything Price has gone through, everything we have gone through amalgamates into the masterful climax of the trilogy, Dust to Dust, the pinnacle of the sensation of revenge, justice, and closure to one of the best video game trilogy of its time. Ending with a beautiful cinema cliché, bringing the story full circle with the smoke of a cigar. This wasn't so much a video essay as I wasn't analyzing the story structure of the trilogy. The goal, rather, was to understand how the fundamental philosophy molds the perspective from which you tell said story. And we can see how the philosophical conflict, Niccolo Machiavelli's "the ends justify the means," shapes the characters and the world in which they live. Price turning obsessional, overwhelmed by his thirst for revenge and justice, causing him to give more and more leeway to the methods used. Shepard, blinded by his patriotism and ego to be remembered as a hero. Makarov and Zakhaev, who pushed this philosophy to the extreme by using terror as a weapon for political agenda. Or Yuri, who, contrary to the others, witnesses the insanity of Makarov and Zakhaev and refuses to be consumed by it. She turns away and is one of the only characters to not believe in the lie that the ends justify the means. Having said all this, I'm not suggesting the devs were actively conscious of everything I've gone over in this commentary. They may or may not have been, I don't know, and ultimately, it doesn't matter, because when all the analytical bullshit is stripped away, the raw emotion remains. The essence of what the story tells remains. At 10 years old, I was not thinking, wow, his extreme patriotism and egotistical desire to be a war hero has really blinded his moral compass. I did not see that coming. No, I was thinking, what the f***? He shot Ghost. And that's it. But what was felt? Shocked betrayal and disbelief. And that encapsulates the same energy. It's not about fitting a story into a particular graph-like structure, but it's the other way around. If you look, you'll find that in every compelling story that's ever been written or told, it will correlate to a structure, a formula. It's like making a table to a certain extent. If you make a table without measuring any of your lumber or any of your cuts, you can still end up with a table. Now, someone with a keen eye for proportion will end up with a much better table than someone who doesn't. But either way, once that table is finished, you'll find that in order for the table to be a functioning table that's comfortable to sit at, it correlates to certain mathematical measurements and proportion. Writing an emotionally gripping story isn't about having a checklist filled with technical literary notions and you having to find a way to include all of these into the story. No. It's that whether or not you want it to, the only way a story will be truly emotionally compelling is if it correlates with the harmony and structure of the technical literary notions, conscious or not. The backbone of a story is the fundamental aspect to having that emotional sensation.